Okay, so for the rest of us that are here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right in. So, welcome. Thank you for attending. I believe that this is the second annual SQL Workshop series.
It is. That's correct.
Perfect. We're doing a little different format. I'm going to be your dude for all three segments, as opposed to last year. If you attended, there was a different instructor for each workshop. And the thought is here is we can build a continuous curriculum here that compounds off the previous workshop in a more cohesive and fluid manner. So here is today's agenda. All right, so we're going to start off with who the hell is this guy? Who am I? Why should you listen to me? What am I even doing teaching here? Okay, so why SQL? What actually is an RDS? Like, what is it? What is a relational database system? How do most businesses and corporations use it? Why is it applicable to an MBA student, or a business curriculum? And then we're going to get our hands dirty. We're going to go ahead and log into the Foster Virtual Lab, and we're going to start up a MySQL server and start diving into some queries with some sample data that we have loaded in there. We'll go over basic query structures, the very basic clauses and conditional formatting. And then we'll jump into some more nuanced, kind of like we love the maths kind of aspect to analysis, and then how we can manipulate data to help us out there. Okay, so who the hell is this guy? Who am I? My name is Maddie. I am a first-year evening student here at the glorious School of Foster. And my background is right here. So after I was in the military as an officer for a long time, not really relevant to this, so we're going to skip past that. In the civilian world, my first civilian job was as a senior operations analyst for a startup here known as Flex. It's employee number 7, so early in the ground. Flex is cool. It's got over $200 million in investor funding right now. They're maybe a year and a half away from hitting unicorn status, which is really incredible. They deliver omni-channel logistic programs for mostly, omni-channel retailers. You got your Walmarts, your e-commerce companies strictly, and really providing logistical solutions and supply chain options. From there, I was poached to be the director of operations for more so a direct consumer e-com company for craft beer here in Seattle called Tavor. And then I left Tavor to be a senior business analyst at my current position here at Sound Commerce. Again, early employee. We focus on retail data enablement platforms. So consumer insights, consumer data from all these glorious e-commerce systems or omni-channel systems. So combined over here, so over 10 years in the civilian world in SQL and data analysis and consumer insights, so whatever that's worth to everyone. Okay, so why SQL? So this is a beautiful, and let me know if these slides are too small and I could try to fix them in any way. But why SQL? Well, here is a glorious design that kind of paints a picture of like your standard business, your standard consumer-based business. On the left, you have all these different systems, right? And then they all, customers or some end user is interacting with these systems to some degree. And every one of those actions is being collected in this middle section, this database, right? And then this data is then being modeled and then spit back out in some form that allows for either further analysis, or you're pushing it back to a system to do a particular job. I should also say that during this workshop, it's going to be like a call and response thing. I'm going to call on people, or no, I do want active participation. So don't be afraid to speak out, raise your hand, type in the chat, and I'll try to read my chat as often as possible over here. But yeah, so who can name some of these symbols on the left-hand side here? Who is familiar with some of these systems? Let's throw Ben under the bus right now. Ben, what are some of these systems?
I'm going to answer your question, but first I'm going to tell you that at least for me, it says chat disabled. Like I get I have the chat button, but I can't type anything.
I was going to say the same thing.
Oh, okay. Well, we will have to come back to that at another time. So it's all, I think, purple then.
Yeah, there are like few enough of us in here that I think we can just raise hands.
Yeah, there's definitely only 12. And then I will try to figure out how to look for that. Yes. Okay, perfect. So Ben, what are some of the symbols over here?
Yeah, from what I can see, so it looks like we've got some commerce platforms like Shopify,
Yep.
and Amazon as well, depending on kind of what this business is doing. And it looks like we've got, this is sort of where the way that social media interfacing happens lives as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So down here we have your Pinterest, your Instagrams, your Twitter, your Meta, Facebook, your TikTok, your Klaviyo, which is going to be like an email platform. So you have consumers at the end of a business interacting with all these platforms. These platforms are pushing data to a centralized database, which a business will then utilize and leverage to either put into a BI tool such as Power BI. You have Tableau, you have Metabase. They orchestrate data back out to a system, and this helps, and the reason why they go from system to a database back to the same system is it allows them to analyze and segment better. So in this example, Klaviyo, an email platform, to a database, allows you to understand your customer interactions with your email campaigns, combined with your order data that you have coming in from Shopify, readjust customer segmentation, push those segments back out to Klaviyo, and then re-engage your customers. And same thing with these digital marketing platforms over here. Okay, so why SQL? So this is a great comic. One of our instructors does these Dilbert comics, and this is a very brilliant one for this specific aspect. So we'll go ahead and read out loud. That was a nice 4-mile walk. Refreshing. Want to watch some TV? Sure, after I finish this call. Thanks for holding. There's nothing in the database about your problem. So why do you want to know SQL? Well, if we go back to this diagram, you can see that there's a choke point right here, right? From the data that you want in the database, and then how you're actually going to use it. And what you don't ever want to be in the position of is waiting on someone else to give you that data. So it is within your best interest and your decision's best interest to get the data that you want when you want it and as accurately as you could pull it, as opposed to relying on someone else to solve your problem for you. You're gaining self-sufficiency and being able to pull the data that's most applicable to you in a timely fashion. So that is why SQL is a vital skill to any business leader in today's world. So what is a relational database? Okay, so everyone here has worked in various forms of Excel. What do you call a single one of these tabs, right? So what would you call a single one of these tabs? Does anybody have an idea or what typically you would call a single tab?
A page?
Yeah, a page, a table, just a sheet, a single sheet. Sure. So what do you call the collection of tabs in Excel?
Workbook.
A workbook. Excellent. Yeah. So can equate a database to a workbook, equate a page or a tab, a single sheet as a table. A database is just a collection of tables. And each one of these tables, and what makes it relational, is you have each one of these tables. In these tables, you're able to connect the dots between them. So in those tabs in Excel, you usually use a function like VLOOKUP or match index, and you could connect data sets or those different tabs to produce a single result. Well, it's very similar in a relational database. Each one of these tables, you're able to draw a relationship between. So looking at this diagram, how would we do that? If we wanted to somehow connect films to categories, how would we do that? Let's see, let's pick on someone. Elizabeth, are you available to talk? How would you connect these?
If you can chain between the different grouping, you would chain the ID from between films and categories, and then the category ID between film categories and categories.
That is exactly correct. Right, that's brilliant. So this is the benefit of a relational database. Each one of these tables, you're able to connect via some sort of key, some sort of single ID that transcends just its own data or its own table. Okay, so now enough talking. We are going to go ahead and jump into our data exploration. So if you didn't have a chance to troubleshoot this before, don't worry, we'll go ahead and do it now. Go ahead and the only difficult part was I'm not able to attach a link in the chat. So if you want to reference your email for the virtual lab link, that would be best. And if there's anybody who tried this and had issues, go ahead and let us know now. We'll try to troubleshoot with you. And then once everyone is in, go ahead and raise your hand in in Zoom. Okay, perfect.
Sorry to be the holdup. I'm clicking MySQL server start and nothing is happening.
Okay, so let's go ahead and here, I'll share my screen and then we can try to troubleshoot from there. So let's do this. We're gonna do this. We're going to and everyone could see my screen. It's the virtual lab's loading right now.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select MySQL Server Start. It's going to have a pop-up here. And then once the server has been initiated, this pop-up will actually close. So it might not do anything again if you've already launched it. But now we're going to go ahead and go to the MySQL Workbench. And in the bottom left here, we'll see a local instance MySQL 80 under My Connections. We'll open that. It's going to prompt you for a password. And the password is also in the email, but it's lowercase class. Oh, it's actually on the slide. So I can hop back over to the slide if we need it. And then it'll open. And then just some cleanup here. If you follow my mouse up in the right hand corner, we're going to click that right thing to get rid of all this extra space. We're going to click that to get rid of all that. And then on the left here in the hamburger toolbar here, we're going to click schema as opposed to administration. And then now you'll start to see the data sets that we have loaded in here. You can even expand. We're going to be working with the Sakila up here. So you can expand that and then also expand the tables aspect of it. I'm going to jump back over to the slides. Did that help? Did that work for everyone?
It worked. But while I was busy putting in the password, you were showing us where to get to the data, so I missed that part.
Ah, okay, yes. So on the left-hand side on the navigational toolbar, the left one, you'll have administration selected. Go ahead and select the one next to it called schema. And that'll give you 3 different databases. You're going to want to expand the Sakila database. And then within that, expand the tables. And then you'll see a list of about 15 tables within that data set. Okay, looks like we have almost everyone. Go ahead and put your hands down, and Amelia, Nick, and Sid. If you have an issue, go ahead, or if you're still troubleshooting, just reach out to me or just say something and we can talk through it. But we're going to go ahead and move on for now.
Yeah, I'm good to go, Maddie.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on our path. So, okay, so in the big white box in the middle of your screen, you know, I want you to go ahead and just enter this. Just paste that exactly in, and then someone tell me how, and then you're going to run the query, And how you run the query is you can select the lightning bolt above that white space. And then tell me what happens. What pops up? Did everyone get a table pop up under it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is exactly right. So this is exactly what you would expect to see in Excel, right? A combination of rows and columns. In the top row, you have headers that represent the field. And then you have each row represents a unique record for whatever table that you're currently in. Now let's talk about how that query is actually broken down. That statement that you put in is extremely powerful. So let's actually identify what this does. So in the middle, you'll see the statement select star or asterisk from this thing I just told you to write. But what does this stuff actually mean? Okay, so select means give me. This asterisk, this star is actually indicating, it's telling the system, the client, what fields you're looking for, what columns you want it to return to you. The from part is where you're telling it to look for the fields. And then you're actually going to give it the address. You're going to give it a data set and then a table. So Sakilla in this example is a data set, and then the table is film. So through this exercise, we will always be using Sakilla. So the only thing that's going to change from the from statement is the table at the end of this. So very powerful. Select star. And then you can see right here, this asterisk actually represents, it's shorthand for all fields. So you'll hear different people, they'll say different things. I'll say select all. I say select all. So when I say select all, I mean select star, select asterisk. But you'll hear different things, but it all means the same thing, right? It says, this is essentially saying, give me everything from this table. All right, that's it. Like you guys know MySQL now. If you can pull data from a table, we can wash our hands. Okay, so you don't always want to use select all though. There are situations where you're going to be running into tables or data sets that are huge, terabytes, thousands upon thousands, if not millions of rows. In my current job, we have tables that have millions and millions of rows. So it's not going to be really practical or efficient to hit select star every time we run a query, right? So there's going to be hundreds of columns, potentially millions of rows. So we want to be able to like only pull the information and enough information that we need. And a technique to do that is by specifying the exact columns that we're looking for. Now, working with this data set, and it might be hard because you guys haven't actually, you're not familiar with the tables, you're not familiar with the schemas, you don't know what fields or columns are available, right? So if in this, as we go through this, hitting select all for whatever table we're working on, just to familiarize yourself with those columns is fine. And then once you understand what columns you're looking for, go ahead and adjust your query with the right table or with the right columns that we're looking for in whatever example we're looking in. So go ahead, and here's an example. Go ahead and type this in that white space that you have, and then execute that query.
Hey, Maddie, when we do that, do we need to like put a character churn after each word, or can you just put it all on the first line?
You could put it all in the first line if you wanted to. Now, it does need to be separated. The fields need to be separated by columns. And as we start to develop more complex queries, you'll see why maybe having everything on one line isn't the most beneficial, either because it's jumbled and it's hard to decipher, or if you run into an error, the system will be less helpful in trying to direct you to where that error is. So has everyone been able to successfully enter this query and got a good result, or has anyone encountered an error? Okay, I will take silence as confirmation that everything is great. Perfect, that's excellent. Good news. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do a practical exercise. So you have on your screen, you should have that query that you just wrote. All right, use that as a frame. You already understand, we've went over how a query is constructed, the select statement, identify the columns that you want, the from statement, and then identify the table that you're looking for. And you were at the film table. Now we're going to go to the rental table as outlined in its practical exercise. So go ahead, take a minute, orient yourself to the rental table, select star of the rental table, and then adjust your query to include these columns only. Okay, and go ahead and give a thumbs up when you've completed this. Okay, we have a question. Yes, Daniel.
Oh, I'm okay, actually. Sorry, I pushed the the wrong reaction icon.
Oh, okay, cool. Perfect.
Sorry. Sorry. Thanks, Steph.
Yeah. Okay. How's everyone else doing? If you're good, go ahead and push that thumbs up. Leave it up there until we move on.
I think the thumbs fade. I think they go away.
Oh, do
That's
they?
why.
Okay, maybe
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah. We're just gonna have to spam the thumbs. Okay. For anyone who doesn't have a thumbs up right now, any issues? Perfect. Okay, moving back to the slides. Okay, so this is what your query should have looked like. And your results would have been just the data from these three columns. Next, we're going to learn, we're always going to be building off of what we just learned for our query. Right now, you guys have learned how to select everything from a table, how to pick very specific columns within a table to give you results. And now what we're going to learn is how to filter and sort the data that's returned to you from that query. So how do you typically, filter and sort within Excel, right? It's pretty easy. If you can see here, you could just hit the filter button at the top of the row, and it'll give you the available options for that row, and you just select what you want. And then if you want to order something, you can sort it by ascending, descending, whatever. So very similar to what you could do Excel, you could do in a query. Go ahead and just type this query in and then run it. Okay, let's see here. Let's call on somebody. Let's see. Alec. What do you think we added to this query? What's in this query that wasn't in the last one? What do you see here that's different?
Sorry, I missed this one. I was checking something else.
Oh, no worries. Okay, so the question is, even without having typed this query in and looking at the results, here's the last query we did. This query just gives you everything from 3 columns, right? What are we adding to this query that's different?
You assign the rating equals R. That's the only one that you want to show.
Yes, yeah. So we added 2 new things. That's exactly right. So the first one we added is a where clause. So take this back to the filtering back in Excel, where you want to look at only films that are rated R. We can apply the same type technique of filtering here. So the where clause is what allows us to do that. So we're saying, give us these 3 columns from this table where the films are only rated R, only the films that are rated R. And then this last one, the last thing we added here is an order by clause. And it's the same thing as sort in Excel. We're saying, okay, give me all the films, give me all the films for these columns that are rated R, and then I want you to give me a descending order for the replacement cost. So just a little bit more in the where and order by clause. The where clause, it limits the row a query returns based on the defined condition. In that example we just rolled through, the defining condition is films that were rated R. And it typically, it always comes after the from statement. So a where statement will always come after the from statement, no matter what. Going to order by. It's typically always going to be the last thing in the query. There is 1 or 2 examples, and maybe we'll touch those in one of the other workshops. But as far as we're concerned, it's going to be pretty much the last thing in the order by statement. And it naturally, when you say order by, you have to select a field that you want to order your results by. So in the last example, we said by replacement cost. Naturally, if you just say order by replacement cost, it's going to order it in ascending or alphabetically or numerically. And if you want it descending, you actually have to specifically say descending. So if we go back to that, we say order by this field descending, which is going to give us the highest value up top. Now this leads us into operational functions. Go ahead and, I'm not going to read this to you. Go ahead and look at this. It's basic. It's pretty basic logic formulas. If you guys have done statistics or, any sort of game theory or any sort of like logical sequence in decoding or development. And then this is what we're going to help build our where statements, our conditional where clauses on, utilizing one of these operator functions. Now this brings us into, let me remove this, a good little segue for data types. Now in our example, in this example where we use our where clause, we tell it what field we want the condition to be set on, and then we give it the condition, right? So we're saying go to the rating field and only return results that match or equal to R. Now, the big call out here is you can see that R is in single quotes. And if there weren't single quotes there, your query would fail. You would have no results. And it comes down to the data type. So it's very important to have awareness around the data types at a high level to understand how to design and develop your query. So for the purpose of us in this exercise, we're going to say there's only 2 main data types. That's a gross oversimplification, but it'll work for us. We have a string and we have a number. String is what we just talked about in that last example. It's a combination of numbers, text, or symbols. and it has to be surrounded by single quotes. And within that single quotes, it has to be a direct match. So it has to be, it's case sensitive. It has to be spelled the exact same way of whatever you're enforcing that clause on. For a number, it doesn't have to be in quotes. You could just type the number. Now, that being said, there are situations where you'll look at some data, it'll look like a number, but it's actually a string, and that's something else. Don't worry about that. The system will always tell you when you run into an error with your query, what's wrong with it. So if you try to say, if it looks like a number, you say where cost equals 3, and it goes, you can't do that because it's a string. Well, then you just put single quotes around it. We'll do some examples of that later. But for now, we're going to go ahead and do a practical exercise. All right, so go back and get back into your SQL server, your MySQL clients. And I'm going to ask for you guys to build me a query that produces a list of films or film titles where the rental rate is greater than $2.99. These are the fields I want in the results. And then this is how I want the data sorted.
Hey Manny, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
I came a little late and I'm sorry for that. And I'm trying to follow the instructions in the email where I, start my server and then open up the workbook.
Yep.
When I click on the local instance, I'm not asked to put in a password. And then I just get like no data connection. I'm not really sure what the heck I'm doing, to be honest.
Okay, so let's try this. Go close the workbench.
Okay.
And then you'll see instead of so that you have that green check mark that says start the SQL server, go ahead and hit the other one that says stop SQL server.
Okay. Hit that. Double click
that. It should have a pop-up window that says closing everything. And then once
Yeah.
that's done,
nothing actually pops up. Like I see something on like the taskbar at the very bottom, but like nothing pops up, says anything, and then closes.
okay. Let's try to restart the server and see, and then just wait a second, see if anything pops up.
I don't even know how to do that, Maddie.
Okay, yeah.
Do I exit VMware?
No, let's. I'll go ahead and share my screen. We're going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the SQL server for me.
Right. I don't even get that text box.
Perfect. All right, that's fine.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and hit the green check.
Okay.
Server, and then eventually, mine's a little slow right now. It'll pop something up. Maybe it'll pop something up. There we go.
Okay, so should I right click this and do the open? Yeah, I never even get that. I'm not sure what the heck's going on. I'll try the workbench. Yeah, and then I click on the local instance and I am still not asked for a password. So I'm not sure what the heck I'm doing. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hold you up.
Oh, no worries. How about we?
I'll exit VMware and then just re-upload it, and then
Okay.
I'll let you know what happens.
Okay, perfect. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so how is everyone else doing with the query? Does somebody want to talk me through how they approach this? I'm gonna call on someone.
I'll go. This is
Perfect. Dan. let's go.
So I
Okay.
used your previous query as kind of like a template. So with the I guess columns or fields be like title, release year, rental rate, rental duration. And then after rental duration, the database is from the Sakilla.film database. And then the constraint would be where, and then it's rental rate. I guess caret arrow pointing to the left. So like looks like it's eating rental rate, then 2.99.
Okay, it's greater than 2.99. Okay, what else?
And then order, and then the order by rental duration followed by the descend clause, or is that correct? Descend clause, DESC, the descending. So
Yeah, did I mistype something? I probably did. See here, right there. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so everyone should have gotten, okay, so let's make sure that we are all.
okay. So you can call the line item instead if you want to, instead of typing it out each time.
Yeah, so that's a great observation. We were just about to go into that next.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great little shorthand. So does everyone see the query on my screen? And did we all get the same results? So we have the columns that we're looking for. From the correct table that we're looking for, we have our conditional clause here. So the where statement is critical, right? So you will never not need a where statement whenever you build a query. And this is perfectly executed. So where the rental rate, the column that we want to put the condition on, is greater than 299. So what that means is in this third column, we will never see anything 299 or less. And we don't. Everything's 499 all the way down at the end. So that's worked perfectly. And then we're sorting by rental duration. So we could see that the highest rental duration is 7. So this is perfect. This is absolutely correct. Now, exactly what he just called out. We can shorthand on the order by clause at the very end. So that shorthand references the field or column of that same position. So in this example, when we say order by 4, descending, it means, hey, go to the 4th column I'm asking for, and then just do that. So I don't have to write out that whole column again. Because you guys will see if you practice a SQL in your businesses, there will be extremely long column names, extremely long. So shorthand is a great technique to just save your fingers some stress. Okay, now it's time for hello and or goodbye, your comparison operators. So filter conditions are awesome. So we just went over them in that where clause, but they can be combined to further optimize the desired results of whatever query you're writing. And those operators, those comparison operators are, if you use Excel, the exact same. So there's and there's or. And then in the last column here, we can see those examples. So in the first one, what we're doing is we're looking for movies that are PG that also have a rental rate greater than 9 and a rental duration that does not equal 6. So we're being very specific. We have 3 different conditional clauses on this one where statement. In the or row, we could see give us actors with the first name of Ed or the first name of Nick. So if we run this conditional clause, what do we think we'll get as a result? We'll get every actor that has either the name Ed or has the name of Nick. So without putting this in, we'll get to that, but without putting this in, what do we think this query is going to, what do we think the results are going to be? What are we asking the query to do here? Specifically around this where clause down here, what will it be filtering? What will the results be? Yes, someone has their hand up. Let Nick. Let's
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I've got an idea.
Yep.
So I think it's going to select 3 different columns: the title, rating, and rental duration.
Yep.
From your Sakilla film table, and then it's only going to return rental duration and ratings equal to both 6 and R respectively, or it's going to return a film with a rating of NC 17.
Yeah, That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's going to return all films that are rated R that also have a duration of 6, or it's going to give me all films with the rating of NC-17. So go ahead, and if you haven't done so already, put that into your query builder and then look at the results, and you'll see exactly that. So what we're doing here is we're actually putting a combination of conditions, right? So just like in logic, so that and statement is connecting the duration with the rating. This and statement connects these two. So these two are in its own bubble. It's going to give me results where the rating is R and the duration is 6, right? And then we're saying, or give me results where the rating is NC-17. Now, what can we do? What if I wanted, what can we do this query? Like if we think intuitively here, what could we do this query if I wanted films rated R or NC-17 that only have a duration of 6? So right now, this is giving me all NC-17 films and R with duration 6. What if I want both rated R and NC-17 with the duration of 6? What could I do here? There's a couple different ways.
And sorry.
Yeah, we could absolutely add another and at the end of this. That's absolutely another way. A different technique is throwing parentheses around it. So now we're saying, okay, so the first clause is give me everything where the rental duration equals 6. And we throw a couple of parentheses on here. And then now this is acting as its own like independent clause. So it's either going to be R or NC-17. And everything has to be duration of 6. So if you were to enter this, that's what the results would be. But yeah, you could also have thrown an and statement at the end of the last query. That would have absolutely worked as well. Okay, another practical exercise. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys about 5 minutes to read through this and practice it. And as you see, these are going to be getting a little more complicated, a little more sophisticated as we learn new clauses, we learn new syntax and the way to order them. And let's see here. Let me go ahead and let somebody know that they'll be talking. Sid, if you're around, we'll have you talk us through this when you're ready.
And I'm around, but I am currently walking.
Oh, okay, no worries.
I'm happy
go.
to give some thoughts on how I would proceed on this, though.
Yeah, okay, so let me share my screen and we can talk through it. Yeah, sure. So yeah, let's share your thoughts.
Okay, so I would go ahead and select the fields, title, rating, rental rate, replacement cost. And then use the where. Oh, we first have to use from. From films.
Yep, from film.
We use the where clause where the rating is PG. And the rental rate less than equal to. Oh, okay. The or clause is kind of getting me confused a little bit without actually doing it on the keyboard. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, no worries. So let's do this. Rental. Okay, so far I have rating is PG, rental rates is, I heard less than or equal to 299. Okay, and then the or clause is getting you is confusing. So who else has an idea here? First of all, like what are you guys able to see? Are you guys looking at my SQL screen or are you looking at the slides? I'm not sure what you guys are able to see right now.
I think you
see
can
both.
choose.
Yeah. Oh, you're looking at both?
I can choose which one I want to look at.
Oh, yes, perfect, brilliant. That worked well then. Okay, so who wants to help with the or clause right here?
I think you want to throw. So is what you have right now where rating equals PG and rental rate is less than or equal to 299?
Yep, that's what we have so far.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the most elegant way to do this, but what I would do is throw those in parentheses and then put an or clause after them.
Sure. Okay.
And then I think I would open some more parentheses
Yeah.
and put rating equals G and then an and statement. And then I'm not sure if you need more, if you need parentheses again to do this, but I'd basically do, you know, replacement cost greater than or equal to 15 and less than or equal to 30.
Okay. Yes, this absolutely works, right? So there are, as we'll see in a second, there are multiple ways of writing conditions. This will give you the absolutely the correct results. And you'll learn that everyone's going to have different preferences on what to deploy, what to enable. So if we're looking back at, we'll go ahead and move the slide forward once, and then we'll see what the solution I came to was, and then we can actually write that down in the query, and you'll see that it all comes out to the same thing. It'll all be the same thing.
All right, between. Forgot about between.
Yeah, no worries. Not 115. And it's going to tell me, so this is why it's like going back to the formatting question, it'll give me an error. And if I have everything on one line, the message it gives me will be very hard to interpret. So by separating the format here, it's telling me that there's an error on this line, and it's going to give me a little more context around that error is. So right here, we have an error in the syntax, corresponds to the version. Okay, and then it tells me that I'm spelling between wrong. And then there we go. So it's the exact same results once I fixed my query. Okay, we're going to move back to the slides. All right, we love maths. It's a great little section. This is going to be the most applicable. This is going to allow you to actually conduct some good analyses within your data sets that you have. Okay, true or false, your SQL client can actually be used as a basic calculator. Surprise, it can be. So you can actually type any one of these statements and it'll give you the result. Always remember though, you have to always start a query with the select statement. So you select 2 + 2, and then the result's going to be whatever 2 + 2 is. And then you could do, you know, the rest of it, multiplying, division. You could actually type in some pretty elaborate calculations here. Now, but how does this apply? What's this actually mean to like data sets? Well, now we're starting to get into some math functions. We have count, average, and sum. Much like Excel, these functions are going to be applied to particular fields, like we were just applying the where clause to. You're going to apply these math functions to fields. In this last column of this table, you'll see some, except for the last one because I messed that one up. But in the first 2 rows of this, you'll see how you identify the field that you want to conduct the function on, and you surround that field with the brackets, with the parentheses. Now we're gonna go back to a practical exercise. All right, so 3 different questions here. Outlining each one of the functions, count, average, and sum. So we'll go ahead and you can follow along in MySQL screen, or you can go ahead and try it on your own. And the last one's a little tricky, right? So now we're introducing a where clause in combination with the functions that we're doing. So if you want to follow, if you look over to MySQL screen, okay, there we go.
Wait, can I ask, how did you fix that? Mine was giving me that same error next to select. It looks like I have a typo. I know how to spell select. What's going on there?
Yeah. So do you have all 3 queries written out like this in a single window, or do you have them separate? Or do you have
No,
just
I literally just have the first one and it's giving me that error.
okay, it's giving you an error. So what function are you trying to use right now?
I have that first set, like your first 3 lines. Oh, I
Okay,
have a
perfect.
comma. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, no commas needed. So if we're only looking for a comma is only used to separate fields in a query. And if you put in additional comments, some clients don't know how to react to that.
Okay, that was it. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So a trick also is you see I have all 3 queries in one window. Now, if I try to run this, it's going to give me an error. But if I highlight a single query and I say execute that, it's going to give me the right results. Okay, perfect. And then this last query, which is I'm looking for a count of all the titles where the rating is equal to PG-13. So we see I'm putting the count function around the title field. We're pulling it from the same table that we have been operating in. And then now here's where the additional where clause comes in. I'm saying where the rating is equal to PG-13. And this result is going to give us, it's going to tell us that there are 223 movies in our inventory that have a rating of PG-13. So this last one is incredibly important, incredibly useful when you guys operate in your companies or in your data and analytics class or data and analytics class, or if you're just scrolling through public databases somewhere. So utilizing in conjunction of a count function or a sum function with this filter is critical, is a really good and useful, important tool to know. Okay, going back to the slides here. And then this is what the queries look like as we just went over on the SQL Server itself. Okay, now we're going to get to some more advanced aspects. I'm sure everyone here has created a pivot table before. Does anyone want to give a kind of high level definition of what, or outline of what a pivot table is, why you would use it? Like, what is the best value of a pivot table in Excel? Josh, you want to go ahead and give us something? Okay.
I actually didn't use pivot table much, so maybe others can help on this one.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So I'll just go. Daniel, how about you? You want to talk us through what like a big value of the pivot table is?
To be honest, I don't use pivot tables very heavily in my current job function either, but I guess
Oh.
I think it could help group and sort data so you can like organize it and by different
Yeah.
buckets,
No,
I guess you can say.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So what a pivot table does, the greatest power of a pivot table is it allows you to group aggregations by attributes, right? So we're grouping aggregations by attributes. And let's look at this, right? So this data set, the screenshot is this exact same data set that we're working with, but now we're grouping replacement cost by rating. So we're aggregating the replacement cost by rating. So that's the strongest point or purpose of a pivot table, is the ability to do that. Now we're going to go ahead and apply that same concept of grouping aggregations by attribute within a query. Here's a little more information. Go ahead and at the bottom here, you'll see a query that everyone can type into their screen. And just to see and understand what the query is doing. You'll notice that the results that you get are going to be the exact same as this Excel screenshot we just looked at. We're telling the system, hey, go get me the field rating. Give me accounts of everything. Group that count by the rating. And then order it with the greatest count descending. This group by clause is extremely powerful. And again, when you combine this with the where clause, it's going to be able to give you some really nuanced insights to data, some really great ways to analyze contextually, whatever business you're in, this is going to help out. Let's go ahead and build another query. All right, this one's going to be probably the hardest one so far. And honestly, I think we've only got some time for a couple more slides, but this will be a good one. This will be a good one to finish on. So if you can either take a shot on your own, or you could follow along with me on my screen. And I should note that this question being presented to you is actually a two-parter. You have to do the first part in order to be able to do the second part. Elizabeth, when you're ready, do you want to try to talk us through your approach and what you've done?
Perfect. I have a question because I didn't get it, so I'll try
Yeah.
to, and you can tell me what I did wrong.
Absolutely.
So I started by, well, first I actually did select all just to see what the different columns were,
Sure.
because I don't know what's going on.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
then I did select with customer ID. Oh, and like your screen. And then I did do some amount. And I just did from, like, I just got through line 4 of what you had
Mhm.
from the payment table.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I'm just getting customer ID number 1 and it summarizes everything. Like I'm not getting multiple. Like it's acting like there's literally just one customer with customer ID number 1.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a filter or something.
How was your group by clause? What are you grouping by?
I don't have one yet.
Okay, so that's going to affect your results. So in order to get all, so without that group by clause, you're not giving the system, you're not telling it that you are looking for the sum for each individual customer ID. So without that group by clause, what you're telling the system is, hey, give me the customer ID and the sum of amount, and it's what it's doing is aggregating the sum of everything into a single record. And because you're saying you're not grouping those sums into individual records, because you're without the group by, you're saying give it to me in a single row, the system is going to return the first ID that it comes across, because you're only asking it for one record. What the group by function does is it says, give me every customer ID that has an amount next to it, and then sum all those amounts by those customer IDs.
Got it. That makes a lot more sense now. Thank you.
Right.
Dumb question for the line 5, the group by where you have the 1.
Mhm.
Why is it not, if it's grouping by customer, then why is it calling the select line at 1 instead of like the line 2 of customer ID if you're grouping by customer ID?
Yeah, not a dumb question at all. It's a great call out. So this system is pretty, it's sophisticated enough to understand that you're not going to want to group by the select statement. So don't think of this as a row of the query. Think of this as the first field. Think of this as the field list. So what you're saying is,
Okay.
yeah, give me the first field that I'm requesting, not the first line of the query.
Okay, so then subsequently it's saying give me the second field, since there's only 2 in this case. But like if you had 3, for example, if you wanted the second one, you would order by like the second field.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so Elizabeth just walked us through this. We learned that without a group clause, the numbers are going to, the results you get are going to be confusing. So with the addition to the group clause, we now have all the customer IDs and then how much money they've spent, right? So this is actually a real life use case that people in my company do every day. We want to know who our most valuable customers are. We want to know how much they've spent over any given time, and we want to know what the most valuable customer is and who the least valuable customer is. And this is going to allow us to target our resources to those high value customers a lot easier and more effectively, and to stop spending so many resources on the least valuable customers. So this first question is, who's our most valuable customer? How much have they spent? Who's our least valuable customer? How much have they spent? So we could see that customer ID 526 has spent the most out of everyone at a total of $221. The customer that has spent the least amount, we can just scroll all the way down here, is customer ID 248. They've only spent $50. So in a real world example, if customer 526 ever has an issue, I'm going to invest more resources in resolving that issue, or whatever obstacle they've encountered. Maybe I'll give them a free moving rental. Maybe I'll give them a free bag of popcorn for whatever inconvenience they had, because they're a high valuable customer, and I can guarantee that I would want to guarantee the return of their continued value to my company. Whereas if customer 248, I know only spend $50 with me, maybe I'll reconsider the cost of what I'm going to give him, the COGS or the direct or indirect cost of whatever I'm going to give him, because it would just be too much. There's not really a lot of value here. So we've identified our highest value customer. The next question in this two-part question is, which staff member has commissioned the most sales? So this guy has spent $221 with us. Which one of my employees at this movie rental establishment has better facilitated to this high revenue customer? Elizabeth, do you want to give us another shot at how you answer the second part?
Yeah, I think I got this one.
Perfect.
So for this, well, first I noted from the previous results that the customer ID I want is 526. So I'll use that in a moment. I don't know if there's a better way to do that, but I noted that from the first results. So then under select, I just want the staff ID and then the sum of the amount. And then of course I want the right table, just the payment table still. And then the filter I wanted was where customer ID was 526. So that's where I put that.
Yep.
And then I almost forgot again, but it's important to put group by one and order by two descending. So we actually get more than one result.
Perfect. Yeah. So what employee led to the most and how much did it lead to?
It was staff ID number 1 and it was $411, but staff ID 2 was close behind.
You said 411?
I meant 111.
Okay, perfect.
Oh yeah, I see your screen. It's the same as what you have.
Okay. Yeah. So, why is this important? Because now I'm getting internal metrics to my company. I'm able to look at my employee performance. I'm able to look at, if we wanted to dive deeper, we could look into like regionality, where are these employees related to each other? We can look at customer bases, but these concepts that we've so far put together, right? So we're aggregating based on fields, we're grouping by an attribute of the data, we're ordering and segmenting that data. So these are critical, critical skills to know in SQL to derive really good insights for your customer base and also your internal performance, whether your metrics, your KPIs. This is how you track those things. Okay, back to the slides. Okay, so as we just went through, here's the query that everyone ran through. Actually, Elizabeth ran us through it. That allowed us to derive the highest value customer, which was ID 526. We then used that ID in the second part to figure out what employee helped contribute the most to that revenue from that customer. Okay, so that's it, guys. We actually ran through it all. So good job. I hope it wasn't, there was a lot of information, but I hope at least some of it sticks. We're definitely going to be building upon it. So let's just do a quick review. Let's see, Lori, you want to help us out with this first one? Why is SQL a critical skill to know for a business leader and decision maker?
Because it helps you derive insights from infinite amounts of data.
Yes, absolutely. And why is it important for us as business leaders to know these skills?
Because we need these insights in order to make decisions.
Yeah, and also equally important is we don't want to have to wait on someone else to get this stuff for us. We want to be empowered to do this ourselves. So
sounds good to me.
Yeah, hell yeah. So okay, so when creating a SQL statement, what symbol allows you to select all fields from a table? Josh, do you remember that?
A star.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Star, asterisk, whatever we want to call it. That's exactly right. That's shorthand for give me everything. Very powerful. You could always do that whenever familiarizing yourself with the data. With larger data sets, it will get very dangerous. The time to load that data set is going to be outrageous. The cost of that query is going to be outrageous. And we'll start to get into how to reduce that when we go over limits next workshop. Okay, so let's see here. Daniel, do you remember the two major data types And what makes them different when building a query?
String and number. And
Yeah,
if
correct.
you have a string, it can be a combination numbers, text, or symbols, and you would use the single apostrophes before and after the string to identify it.
Absolutely. And strings, whenever you do that, have to be an exact match. They're case sensitive. We'll learn some advanced functions to apply to help mitigate when we don't know what we're looking for next workshop. Okay, what were some shorthand techniques that we used today? Let's see here, Nick, you deployed a couple of those.
Yeah, so the when you're ordering or I guess sorting, you can use the number of the particular column that you would like to call out. So if you've got 3 columns in a row listed for those titles, you can select like 2 would be the second column you have listed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely correct. Moving on to the next one. What clause, anyone who wants to answer, what clause is needed to filter data? Where do we put that condition? What word specifically?
Is this where?
That's exactly right. The where clause allows us to deploy a condition against our data. And that's actually what allows us to filter to specific results. That's absolutely correct. And then what clause is needed to aggregate data by attribute?
This would be group.
Yep, group by. That's absolutely correct. It almost seemed too easy for everyone. Okay, so that concludes our workshop number 1. I really am looking forward to seeing everyone next time. I'm going to go ahead and stick around I'm going to leave this meeting open and I'm going to hang out for like 15 minutes to have open office hours for anyone who has questions about SQL or data analytics or the Data Analytics Club, or they want to work through some additional queries. But anyway, thanks for coming, everyone, and it was great.
Thank you. This is super
Thanks, Maddie.
helpful.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maddie.
Hey, Maddie, I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you sending out the slides at all?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Okay. I think there's something I missed about the options with order by, because I know we just really use descend, but I think you had a slide about like other things you can do with that, right?
Yeah, let's see the order by clause. Let's see here.
Yeah. Yeah. Order by. Because there's a part of one practice. Yeah. How do you do alphabetically?
Yeah, so if you just say order by naturally, say order by, what's the field? Say order by customer ID, it's inherently just going to go alphabetically or numerically. In order, yeah, it's
okay.
just going to do that, right? In order for you to go descending, you specifically have to say descending.
Okay, and then so you can just put order by and then the column name and not put descending after it, and then it will just know to do alphabetical. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Laura.
Hey, Maddie, I wanted to say thanks. This has been a great workshop, and I'm pleasantly surprised by how not mystical this has all been.
Yeah, it's pretty intuitive usually.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions. So I noticed, and I may have missed it at some point because I wasn't looking at your screen, but you often had after select, the next couple of lines would be indented, and then it would go back to being at the same like line or whatever as the rest of your query. And every time I put in my queries, there was no indentation. And I was wondering, did that matter, or is there a reason for that?
Yeah, so it goes back to best practices when formatting. Here, I'll reshare my screen actually. Let's do this. And there's no right or wrong way of doing this. But when you start to develop really complex queries, this is a way of telling someone who's reading your query or you going back to looking at your query, because queries can be, I've got queries that are hundreds of lines long that are going through terabytes of data. And we have subqueries within queries that are within queries. So we can get pretty complex with this stuff. And indenting it is just a way of quickly visually identifying when there's a new section. So if I was looking at this, I can go, okay, these are the fields for this query section.
That makes sense.
Because we could start doing like CTs, like we could do with payments as, and now we want to start to separate this. And then we could do.
Oh, I actually had one of those lines pop up. So because I think I was playing around with the tab. So that's why that happens.
Yeah, so when you do that, you can actually, this is just a way of formatting. So if I have, a query that's 200 lines, I can minimize things after I check them or validate what they do.
Gotcha. Cool.
What else? Anything else?
Yes. So in the real world, when someone's running SQL, is the data that is put in there, like, does that have to be manually uploaded by someone first, or like, how does that work? Where does it get its data?
Absolutely. So let's go back to one of the first slides here. The data can come from multiple source systems. Usually in a picture perfect world, it's going to be automated. There's going to be an API connection between your database and the source system, and data will just naturally flow into your database. Now there will be, that won't always, there's not always a picture perfect world. So there will be situations where you'll have to upload either data sets through a CSV file or through a flat file that was exported from one of these source systems. And it sounds like it's manual, but you could always create a job. You could always create a script to actually do this for you. So it should be very rare that you have to upload your own data. Now, if we're talking about, maybe this company is a little immature in its tech stack, or it's on the maturity curve, it's more high touch than high tech. There most likely be a lot of Excel spreadsheets. And if you want to quickly be able to model the data so it talks to each other, there will be manual aspects of creating your own database. It's actually not that hard. It sounds daunting. Unfortunately, that's outside of the scope of this workshop, but there's plenty of tutorials online. And even when we can use like MySQL server, maybe you and I could do this after a class one time. We could just upload a CSV and I'll show you how easy it is.
Okay, cool. I'm in. That's all I had. So I will mosey then.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah, sounds great. Bye.
Bye.